research questionnaire. So I'm just going to be asking you 10 questions, Gabby, and we just want to see kind of how you feel about things and what your kind of outlook is on a couple different aspects concerning the fitness industry and the PT industry. So if you don't mind, we'll quickly get into things and get you out of the cold. So essentially, we're going to be opening up with the most broadest question. What would you expect to pay for a gym membership? Could you provide an upper and lower limit, essentially?
I suppose I wouldn't expect to pay any less than $10 or $15.
Yeah.
And I guess depending on what I was looking for, like up around the $50 a week mark, but I'd probably prefer to sit around $15, $20 a week.
Okay. Yep. No, so that's kind of, that doesn't include training, I'm assuming. That's just access to your gym.
I guess I've seen some gyms where training is included in that sort of $50 range.
Okay.
But otherwise, yeah, I guess if no training's included and it's just access to the facility, then $15.
Okay, not a problem. Speaking of that facility, what accessories, utilities, would you expect to pay for, let's say, that $15 mark? So what would you expect to have in the gym?
At least definitely toilets.
Yeah.
Hopefully a shower. I know a lot of people go before work and would like to shower. Otherwise, just, I guess, floor space, free weights, and just your basic level machines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it would include something like classrooms, say for a spin class, or do you think that would be conducted on the gym floor for a $15 gym?
Sure. I guess for a $15 gym, they might not have that.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, I prefer classes, so I wouldn't mind that at all.
Not a problem. That being the case, what are the absolute minimum requirements a gym must have? What are the absolute necessities?
Free weights, floor space, and cable machines, I guess.
Right.
And like cardio, so spin bikes or treadmills.
Yep.
I feel like those are just stuff that people can do on their own.
Yep.
Yeah, the bare minimum.
Yeah, and I assume utilities are in that as well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, not a problem. So we're just going to move on a touch here. Something a little bit more centered to you. What times of the day would you typically work out?
Probably after work. So I do a lot of shift work. So 24-hour gyms are probably a good sort of thing for me. But either sort of really early in the morning before I start work at 7, or when I knock off at 3, or before I start at 1 and when I knock off at 10.
Right.
Those sorts of things.
So it'd kind of be a little bit chaotic for you on a day-to-day basis.
As a shift worker, I'm always chopping and changing when I have free time, and I can't really commit to a set time every day of the week because my shifts change, and in my line of work I do a lot of overtime and that sort of thing.
Keep our questions alive. Lovely. That being the case, what is your favourite type of workout environment? Like group classes, a small group PT session? So to distinguish that, a group class would be 10 to 12 people, say like a spin class or a circuit. A small group PT is where you've got 2 to 3 individuals potentially lifting together, or in fact solo personal training. What's your kind of
I'm
idea?
a group. I can't do it on my own. Whether it's one PT or a large group, I need other people around me to sort of push me. But I like the group environment. It makes me want to come to the gym more.
Righto.
Especially if the group is like a regular group that I'm in every single week or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of familiar faces in that respect.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. That being said, we're going to talk a little bit about personal training, and so I can understand it's a little bit not exactly up your alley, but personal training is typically the most expensive option at a gym, as I'm sure you're aware. How much do you think they should charge per hour? So typically a trainer would charge somewhere between $50 and $100 normally. The expensive ones who've probably had years of experience as well as a lot of exposure might charge a bit more. Do you think that's reasonable pricing?
I think it depends on like how much experience they have, but also what they're providing. Like if they're not providing any of the equipment at all and they're just rocking up to teach you, I think it should be a lot less than if you're, say, going to someone's personal gym that they own.
Yep.
Obviously you need to pay for the machines.
Yep.
That sort of thing. So I guess I can see how that would be reasonable. Obviously it's not something that everyone can afford.
Yeah.
But if you're really set on achieving certain goals, then I think that's $50 sort of. $50 to $75.
Okay.
Depending on like how much they're providing in terms of equipment.
Righto.
Is reasonable.
So if I'm reading this right, it's closer to $50 if they're operating out of someone else's gym, and closer to $75 if they're operating out of their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. When should a personal trainer be available? How early or late should a trainer be expected to work?
I mean, I think anyone who freelances or does their own sort of business needs to set boundaries. Like, I think, obviously a lot of people do like to work out before work. Yeah. I know most people sort of start work around 8 or 9. So I guess from sort of 6 onwards, maybe. Okay. But I wouldn't say any later than 6 p.m. Either.
Yep. Because there's definitely, if you look on social media and that kind of thing, you got people training even as late as midnight sometimes. We wouldn't expect a trainer to be out at like 9-10 o'clock.
No, not necessarily. I mean, it does sort of depend. If they're catering to the working force that work during the day, they might organise their hours to be later at night or earlier in the morning. But I wouldn't expect them to train for more than the average working day in total. Okay.
So would it be safe to say that potentially they would do an early shift, essentially 9 to 5, they're off almost while everyone's working, or maybe there's a little lunch section and maybe they work after the 5 p.m?
Yeah, but I wouldn't expect them to do more than 8 or 10 sort of hours a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Are you working frequently at the moment? Like, from the sounds of it, you do have a chaotic shift regime. How frequent is that?
So I'm an emergency department nurse.
Righto.
Yeah. So I my shifts are usually sort of 7 till 3:30 or 1:30 till 10 o'clock at night, or if I do the night shift, 9 p.m. until 7 a.m. So it is sort of hectic. Some days it's 1 on, 1 off. Some days it's 4 night shifts in a row, and then 1 day to sleep, and then you're back onto work. So I do find it difficult, sort of.
All right.
Finding time for regular training.
Okay. And so in that environment, just following on from that, do you think that leans itself to be favourable to personal trainers, or not favourable?
I mean, it depends, I guess, on the hours that the personal trainer is like working, or what services they're providing. I think sort of those normal times, like during the day, are sort of out of the realm of possibility for like my job. So I think it is a little bit harder to have that dedicated time every day, because my shift isn't like, my roster is not regular. It changes week to week. So I can never guarantee that I'm going to be free on a certain time and a certain day. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Fair enough. At the moment, personal trainers offer a lot of services, right? Training, depending on their qualifications, maybe some nutritional stuff, and recovery-based kind of things. Is there anything glaringly obvious that you would like to have addressed by personal trainers that they don't at the moment?
Not particularly. I think a personal trainer's job is just to really make sure they are actually tailoring, your workouts to your goals. I think if they're just providing, the same standard workout for every person and not really tailoring it, that would be an issue. But otherwise, I think things like nutrition and recovery are sort of bonuses on top of what they ought to provide, which is just a personal training service. But as long as it's sort of, they're actually putting in the effort to make it tailored to what you want to achieve. Righto. That's the only thing I would look for.
So potentially it could be interpreted that you would see a personal trainer's work beginning and ending as the client enters and leaves the gym?
Yeah, I
or
mean,
does it go beyond that?
I mean, maybe a little bit of extra thought into what you're going to do with, like, if you know that person's goals,
Yeah.
then you always be thinking of things that you can do with them to help them achieve those goals. But I wouldn't expect my personal trainer to, you know, be staying up late at night writing up things for me unless I was paying them extra to do that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, internet is a massive place. We can all, I guess, agree on that. And we're more connected than ever, especially in that online realm. With all this freedom of information, do you think that personal training businesses are under threat, essentially, of losing out to apps, online fitness programs, and essentially cheaper, more remote alternatives?
I could see that. I can see that, like, apps and online stuff would work for a lot of people. Personally, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I need someone there yelling in my ear, otherwise I won't do it.
Yeah.
So I can see that a lot of people would prefer to, you know, follow YouTube video workouts and things like that they don't have to pay for.
Yeah.
But I think there's always going to be people who would prefer to have in-person training.
Right. And for you in particular, it's that motivational aspect, so to speak?
Yeah, like, you know, I tell myself that I'll get up and do something, but I won't do it unless I'm, you know, obliged to in some sort of way. Like, I've made a deal that I'm going to meet my personal trainer at the gym at this time. I've paid for it.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm going to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that makes perfect sense. I guess there's no human element, I guess, to the apps at the moment, so to speak. There isn't that
feedback in real time and that sort of tailoring to you specifically, because, you know, you could watch a specific video on how to get six-pack abs, but every person's body is different, everyone's diet and lifestyle are different, and you need to work towards that goal with someone who knows you and knows what you need. So
all right, perfect. Well, thank you for that. I hope it was quick. I hope it was easy.
Yeah, that's okay.
Great. Well, yeah, that's the extent of our questionnaire. Thank you for coming in.
No worries.
Perfect.